So, former Impact Wrestling World Champion Tessa Blanchard and her husband, also former Impact Wrestling star Daga, could be headed to AEW in the very near future because reportedly they are in talks with AEW about possibly coming in very, very soon. Now, this is a report that's coming from SEScoops.com and it's been widely picked up by a variety of other outlets, so it does look to have something to this here. It says that Tessa Blanchard and husband Daga are in talks to sign with All Elite Wrestling. The negotiations have been ongoing for over a month, and one source close to the situation has told SE Scoops that it's, quote, all but a formality until they are signed. Now, Blanchard, of course, is a former Impact World Champion. She is widely considered to be one of the most talented female competitors on the open market. I mean, you can't deny about that. However, this is why it's a big story. Isn't necessarily because of her talent. That's unquestionable. The reason it's a big story, and it will be a big story wherever she signs, is because she has weathered her fair share of controversies throughout her short career so far. This includes claims that she is difficult to work with and allegations of racism and bullying, of which she has adamantly denied in the past. AEW officials have discussed the idea of acknowledging Tessa Blanchard's prior, quote, issues on AEW television and presenting her with a redemption storyline of sorts. Now, of course, Tessa Blanchard is the daughter of legendary wrestler Tully Blanchard, who, of course, is on AEW television right now as a member of MJF's faction, The Pinnacle. When it comes to her husband, Daga, he has been wrestling for Mexico's Lucha Libre AAA promotion, which, of course, AEW does have a working relationship with. He was the AAA Latin American champion up until this past week when he vacated the championship. Another sign he's possibly headed to AEW in the near future. Now, when I first heard these reports and rumors that Tessa Blanchard was going to be headed to AEW, I first probably should point out that this isn't the first time we've heard these connections. I'm pretty sure we did a video recently here on the channel talking about this, saying that there was interest, reportedly there was some interest from AEW when it comes to Tessa Blanchard. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating because when Tessa Blanchard left Impact Wrestling around this time last year, it was around 12 months ago, really, wasn't it? It was heading into Slammiversary a little bit later on. It was around June time, or I've been around May, but either way, it was around a year or so ago that she left Impact Wrestling. At the time, she was the Impact World Champion. She was in Mexico with her husband, or her fiance at the time. Obviously, there were issues traveling from the US to Mexico and all that kind of stuff, but also her contract was expiring. Impact Wrestling wanted Tessa Blanchard to come in, drop the championship, vacate the championship, drop it to someone, do something. She was unwilling. She was unwilling to do promos or vignettes. She was unwilling to work Slammiversary as well. So Impact decided, you know what, we're going to vacate the championship. Tessa Blanchard will be released from her contract and we'll part ways. It's too much hassle anyway, that kind of stuff. And then obviously when she left Impact Wrestling at the time, the next discussion was, okay, where does she go next? Where does she sign with? What company does she go to? Because obviously, as I mentioned in the report, she's incredibly talented. She is incredibly talented. If you take away the allegations of the racist language, the bullying, difficult to work with, attitude, whatever, there is no doubt whatsoever that there is a really talented pro wrestler there in Tessa Blanchard. No doubt she was the first ever female to win a major promotions world championship, a male-dominated world championship. She did that. She was a former Knockouts champion as well. It's all of the baggage that comes with it. And the fascinating part of this, when it comes to AEW, is that the stuff that came out right after Tessa Blanchard was let go from Impact Wrestling, or her contract expires, whatever you want to say, was that AEW wasn't interested. That was the line, wasn't it? That was the line at the time, was AEW isn't interested. They're not interested in working with her. They take seriously the allegations of her past behavior, of her past comments, all that kind of stuff. There are people on the AEW roster that have worked with Tessa Blanchard in the past that may not have a good relationship with her right now. They're not interested. They don't want to upset their locker room. They don't want to bring someone in that's got that kind of allegations or that past behavior looming over their head. They're just not interested. And again, I mentioned this at the time, and this is worth mentioning as well. AEW is the same company. AEW is the same company that when it came to Hulk Hogan, Tony Khan was very open about this. Not that I don't think Hogan would ever work with AEW, but you never know. They said to Hulk Hogan, look, you're not even welcome to attend our shows as a fan because of what you've said before in the past, for what those leaked tapes of that racist language and the use of all of these terrible, terrible words that you've used in the past, and you're really a lack of apology when it comes to Hulk Hogan. Because of all of that, you're not welcome. You're not welcome at any AEW show. You are banned. Your family are banned. You're not welcome because you use that kind of language. It's unacceptable. So a lot of people would say, well, isn't that a bit of a double standard? Now, obviously, there isn't any physical, tangible proof that Tessa Blanchard did indeed say the things that she's alleged to have said. There are no tapes. There are no anything like that to prove, actually, it's on the record, this is what you said. These are first-hand accounts. The issue is that there are a lot of them. There are quite a few people that have said, yep, I was there. I heard her say these things. Yes, I had issues working with her in the past. Yes, she was difficult to work with. Yes, I witnessed her doing these bullying actions or these bullying words and all that kind of stuff. It's damning. It's damning is what it is. So you could argue that whilst nothing with Tessa Blanchard has been set in stone and concrete and proved when it comes to her past behavior, how come Hulk Hogan is banned from an AEW show but Tessa Blanchard is going to be signed to a contract which I'm sure will be fairly lucrative? That's a double standard. That is a double standard there, and I'm just very surprised. That's really it. I'm surprised to hear these rumors. I always felt that Tessa Blanchard would go to WWE. I felt that was the most likely outcome. And look, let's face it, these are just reports and rumors at this point. And until Tessa Blanchard shows up on AEW television, anything is possible. I felt, to be honest, we've seen this thing on NXT recently, this the Diamond Mind or whatever, that kind of stuff. I felt that could potentially have something to do with Tessa Blanchard. Obviously, she's got the diamond in her logo and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, well, maybe that's the indicator that Tessa Blanchard is finally heading to WWE, back to NXT, because she's been in NXT in the past as well. And again, that goes back to these allegations and these comments that have been made about her. And it was a good point that was made at the time of, if your last name is Blanchard, a very respected pro wrestling name, right? We're talking several generations now, not just Tully Blanchard, but his father as well. You're talking about that heritage that you have, the talent that she obviously has. There has to be a reason or a problem why she isn't signed with WWE today. There has to be a reason, there has to be a problem. And once she was in NXT, again, once she was in the NXT system, there has to be a real reason why she wasn't signed or she was let go. And that's the case with these kind of things. If WWE is saying, I don't know about the behavior or there are some attitude issues here, that's a problem. That is a problem. Nevertheless, I always felt that she would sign with WWE in the end. I felt that was the most likely destination for her. Most likely because, as I mentioned before, whoever signs Tessa Blanchard, there is going to be a PR situation. There was a PR situation for Impact Wrestling even prior to her winning the Impact World Championship when she won it at Hard to Kill in 2019 or 2020 rather. Because at the time there was obviously the big story was that she was challenging for the title, and I think everyone knew she was probably going to win at that pay-per-view. And she did a couple of tweets that weekend talking about being nice to people and all that kind of stuff. And then just the barrage came out. And this was a mere hours before her main event appearance. It was all of these allegations, these accounts, and all these female pro wrestlers came out and said, nope, she said this. I was there. I saw her say it. I saw her get in these people's faces. I've had issues with working with her in the past, all that kind of stuff. And Impact Wrestling had to deal with that. And that was real negative PR at the time. And yes, they got the positive PR that they were looking for when it came to a female winning a male world championship, the first time ever, history being made, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they were still having to deal with all of the negative PR about these stories that were coming out and these real negative stories that were making the headlines at the time. And that won't go away. That's my point here, is that won't go away. So if AEW do sign her, they're going to have to be prepared to deal with that. And that's why I felt that she would go to WWE, because AEW, to be honest, at this point, what real negative PR had they had to deal with? Not a lot. Not a huge amount of real negative, cut and dry, that's bad, that kind of PR. They haven't really had to deal with that much yet. I mean, one of the most negative bit of PRs that AEW has had to deal with is at the end of Revolution. That they had a dud, they had a flop finish. That got a lot of people talking because that was bad. This is next level. This is next level bad PR when it comes to Tessa Blanchard. So they're going to have to be prepared to deal with that. And I'm just surprised that they would be willing to do that, because that feels really unnecessary from their point of view. There's a lot of positive momentum about AEW at the moment. They don't have any competition from a pro wrestling show on Wednesday nights anymore. They've been getting 1 million viewers on TNT Wednesday nights. I know they didn't this week. There was strong competition, whatever, but they're a growing company. They've got stars like Sting and Jericho and all of these other ex-WWE stars coming over, and Christian Cage and The Big Show, and they're becoming a really established brand. They were profitable in their first year because of their new deal that they signed with Warner Media and TNT and all that kind of stuff. It just feels a little bit unnecessary to be like, okay, we're going to sign someone that we know is going to get a backlash. And I know that the report says, well, they're going to try and factor it into the storyline, and they're going to try and turn it into a redemption kind of thing. The thing is with those kind of redemption storylines is, as a fan watching and as the audience, as they return to the stands, which they are going to in the near future, and they're already in the stands anyway with AEW right now, the fans have to be willing and want to see that redemption. They have to want to see that, and they have to be willing to see that. And I just don't know, when it comes to Tessa Blanchard, if those in attendance will be willing to see her or would want to see her get that redemption. I think that's the issue there. And I'm not saying that she's the same as Hulk Hogan. I'm not saying that she has actually said these things, because at the end of the day, these are first-hand accounts and it's not as cut and dry as it is with Hulk Hogan. But we saw what just happened at WrestleMania when it came to Hulk Hogan. We saw that people don't forget anymore. The days of, oh, well, that was a long time ago, people will forget. They don't. People have got a far longer memory than I think they ever used to. And I think that's because of social media. I think that's because of the modern technology that we have, is that previously, if you had a bit of a negative PR story about you, it would be in the news, it would be in the newspapers, the magazines, maybe the websites. Well, you know, this is a while ago, but that would be about it. And after a few months, after a year or so, people would forget, because they would just forget. It would just be that, because there wouldn't be this constant reminder in the newspapers, in the magazines, of what you have alleged to have done in the past. Nowadays with social media, everything's recorded and people don't forget. And I don't think people are going to forget when it comes to Tessa Blanchard. And we saw that with WrestleMania when it came to Hulk Hogan, is people don't forget. Some people don't want to forgive. And I think rightfully so in the case of Hulk Hogan, frankly, because I don't think he really truly apologized for what he did. He apologized for getting caught. There's a massive difference there. And again, Tessa Blanchard has denied these things as well. She might have apologized for maybe being difficult to work with, but she's denied saying these things. And again, to some people, that might be seen as a lack of accountability and a lack of remorse and a lack of feeling bad for what she's done. And again, you don't know how this live crowd's going to react to her, because people nowadays don't forget. And it's all well and good AEW wanting to do a redemption storyline and wanting to do a storyline where it's proved that she's moved on, she's matured, she's grown up and all that kind of stuff. But if the crowd doesn't want it, it doesn't matter what AEW wants to do. So I'm very surprised. I am very surprised that AEW are considering this and are apparently in talks. The Daga one, I'm not surprised. That one, to be honest, has been a story that's been going for a while. I remember reading at least a month or so, maybe a couple of months or so ago, that AEW was in talks with Daga. They were interested in him. I think they've been interested in him for a while, and I think he's pretty much nailed on that he's going to be coming in. So that's not surprising. That one isn't surprising. The Tessa Blanchard one to me is slightly surprising, because I just felt that she would go to WWE, because again, when it comes to negative PR, and signing Tessa Blanchard will bring with it negative PR, there's no doubt about it. I just felt WWE, they don't care. They don't care about negative PR. The list is endless that they don't care about negative PR. They just fired a load of people a year to the day when they fired a load of people at the start of the pandemic. They don't care. They got heavily criticized about that, but they don't care, because they're WWE. They're a $1 billion publicly traded company. They really don't care about negative PR. They still have the deal with Saudi Arabia. They're going to be going back there later this year, reportedly, and still a lot of their female competitors can't perform because of the women's rights issues in those countries. People like Aleister Black can't perform because he has a religious tattoo on his back. When Darren Young was signed to WWE, he couldn't go out there because he was a homosexual. You've got people like Sami Zayn who can't perform out there because he's of Syrian descent. They don't like that. They don't care. And this is the same Saudi Arabia trips as well, that half of their roster, or 3/4 of their roster, were held hostage pretty much at the airport while they couldn't leave the country because Vince McMahon was in an argument with the crown prince of the country. They don't care. They've got Velveteen Dream still under contract. They just released a load of people. Velveteen Dream is still under contract. Other people in NXT UK, with all of these allegations against him, still under contract. People on NXT with these allegations against him, still under contract. Drake Wirtz is zooming in to local political meetings, talking about mask denying and COVID denying, and talking about child trafficking and all that kind of stuff, and spreading baseless QAnon conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. He's still under contract. He did it. He zoomed into this meeting in an NXT official shirt. WWE doesn't care about negative PR. So I just felt, given their history of not caring at all about negative PR or how bad things could look for them, it would seem relatively obvious they would look at the Tessa Blanchard situation and say, I know there's a lot of allegations. We've got Hulk Hogan in the Hall of Fame. We inducted him twice. We've inducted him again this year. We really don't care what people think. So if Tessa Blanchard can come in and make us money, who cares? Who cares? So I always felt that she was more likely to go to WWE. AEW, on the other hand, they do care what people think because they are a younger company and they're not as well established, and it matters to them, public perception, because they're not as bulletproof as WWE. They might have maybe even more money than WWE with the Khan's billions, but they're not bulletproof. Far from it. And if they get a bit of negative PR, that doesn't look good on such a growing and small company that's only been around a couple of years. So I felt they would be more careful when it came to that, but apparently not. So we'll have to wait and see. It's far from confirmed or anything like that. And until we see Tessa Blanchard show up on AEW, we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Again, surprise, very surprised. Not for Daga. He's a quality wrestler, and I think that one's been on the cards for a while. The Tessa Blanchard one is surprising, mainly because of the allegations, but also because AEW, those reports came out this time last year saying, nope, not interested, not a chance. We don't care for it. It's a double standard given our past treatment of the likes of Hulk Hogan that we don't want him coming to the show. We're not interested. We don't want that hanging over us. Something's obviously changed from AEW or Tessa Blanchard in the past 12 months. And for me, that's very, very interesting. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Tessa Blanchard and Daga, apparently rumored to be signing with AEW very, very soon? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about AEW, WWE, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.